Welcome back. It's August 9th, 2022. Me and Gars are back for another day. Again, we're recording this August 7th, 2022. And this is today's running back rankings in the 2022 fantasy football season. I said it in the last episode. Gars, still doing all right? Hell yeah. For those of you that are just listening and can't see, all Gars had to do was dab on camera. All right, let's just jump right into it. Number 15 running back for the 2022 NFL fantasy football season. I have James Conner out of Arizona. I think that he's going to have a good season, especially with D-Hop being suspended the first 6 games of the season. I think there's going to be a lot of running that needs to be happening. I think he's going to have to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, especially these first 6 weeks. And possibly with the suspension of Hollywood Brown, I think that James Conner is going to have to show up. That's why he's my number 15. I actually don't have that much belief in him. I think he's going to be a top 10 guy the first 6 weeks of the season, fall into like the 18 to 20 range, and it's going to average out to right around 15.
I actually have him higher in my rankings. Does a boy packing some heat. No surprise there. I have Travis Etienne for my number 15 pick, and here's why. So chemistry from former college teams has been a recurring trend in the NFL. So you have Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow. You have Tua with Jalen Waddle. You have Jalen Hurts with Devontae Smith from Alabama. And you also have the Clemson duo of Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. So coming off, and correct me if I'm wrong, ACL or Achilles?
I think it was ACL.
ACL. Okay. It's easier to come back from an ACL rather than an Achilles injury. He is very risky. I must warn you, he is a very risky pick at number 15. However, I think he'll make an impact and be a top 5 receiving back. And he is going to really open up that playbook and make some waves on that offense.
I like that pick. He's just falls out at the top 15 for me. He was definitely in the 16 to 20 range for myself. I actually took him last season, and the day after I took him, he tore his ACL. I remember that vividly because I was so excited to have him, and it just didn't work out. At number 14, I have Kareem Hunt. I know he just requested a trade, and the Browns said no. But I think for the Browns to keep him, they're going to need to use him a lot. I think that they're going to let Chubb kind of rest a little bit more than they did maybe the previous season. I think he's going to be involved a lot more. I think he's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. I like Kareem Hunt at number 14.
That was actually a pretty solid pick, and I have him in my honorable mentions, actually. At 14, I have, with the possible suspension, note that is why such a low ranking. I have Alvin Kamara. So with the 3 or 4 game suspension, take that into account, because I make that a reality, because I think curb stopping a person should probably, you would think, merit some kind of penalty. So I would be weary of drafting Alvin Kamara. Now, if you disagree with me, that's fine. And I played devil's advocate with myself like probably about 50 times before ranking him. I would draft Mark Ingram as a quality backup, as we can assume that he'll get some starting playing time.
I like that. I have him a little higher up my list. At number 13, I have Cam Akers from the LA Rams. I do think that he is going to be a big part of this offense. However, I think that a lot of the time when they get into the red zone, it's not going to be ran in. I think it's going to be a lot of Matt Stafford throwing into the end zone, either to Kupp or to Allen Robinson. I think that there's going to be a lot of times where he gets shorted a touchdown here, shorted a touchdown there. He's going to have some good games, but you have to depend on him to get a lot of yards, and a lot of times probably the Rams beating teams pretty heavily, which very well could happen a lot. I just have him at number 13 for me, though.
The Achilles injury, though, has me shaking in my boots about Cam Akers. But other than that, if you don't take that into account, then I would rate him as kind of in that kind of specified area if healthy. So I think he's a pretty good back, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with the ranking and go with James Connors. Now, he's a desert boy that is going to pack a lot of heat this season, pun intended, and he is going to be run wild and possibly have a kind of a 3-down back-esque type load, which will make him a sizable starter.
At number 12, I have Chubb, Nick Chubb. I do think that he's going to split a lot of time this season with Kareem Hunt, and I think that's going to take away from his fantasy value. I would rank him as a very high-end running back number 2. I think he's going to be drafted by many leagues before that happens. I think he's going to be drafted a lot of times in the top 10, and I think you're going to be disappointed if you draft him top 10, only due to the fact that he is not going to be a fantasy producer. Instead, he's going to produce like crazy for the Browns this season. He's just not going to get the fantasy numbers that you're hoping for. So especially if Deshaun Watson is suspended, which it sounds like he will be, I'm thinking 10 to 12 games. I think teams are going to really just pack the box against him when he's out there. And I don't think he's going to be able to have the success that he once did, which is going to be unfortunate for him. It's not something that is really his fault. I think it's just going to hurt his fantasy numbers. I still think that he's going to be a phenomenal back this season. It's just not going to produce fantasy numbers.
I think at number 12, now a lot of people even rank him lower. And I think that's because he's splitting back or carries with his talented backup, Khalil Herbert. That is David Montgomery of the Chicago Bears. Mm-hmm. And I think he's a stellar power back, and he comes into the clutch when needed. He is a fringe RB1, definitely a high-end RB2. And he's at times he's going to have some flashes for the Chicago Bears offense. Yeah, even though very unproven Chicago Bears offense, he's going to be still the star of the show. So David Montgomery at 12.
See, I have David Montgomery at number 11 here. I think that he's going to score quite a few touchdowns for this team. I think that they're going to be in the red zone more than we think. I think it's going to be the defense that lets us up this season, which is really crazy to say. I think that this offensive line has really improved. I said it yesterday. They were ranked like top 13, right at 13 in most rankings with the additions that they made. I think he's going to have a solid season. I would almost anticipate 80 yards a game, probably score a touchdown every other week. He's going to catch the ball a little bit out of the backfield because he is going to be the pass catching back between him and Khalil Herbert. So I like his value, and I think that he is going to be a very, very high end running back number 2.
At are we doing number 11 now?
Yeah.
All right. At number 11, I have Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers. I think he'll be a valued asset in this new look passing offense without Devontae Adams. I think he'll be a number 1 or number 2 target in the passing game. It's either going to be him or Lazard, and he's going to be a top 5 pass catcher as well, knowing Aaron Rodgers. And I think he could even go for 1 or 2 deep balls a game, honestly. And I think that's kind of a bold prediction right there. But he also, one devil's advocate, obviously, he has A.J. Dillon, who might end up later in the season taking more, about as much, if not more carries than him. But he will still be a huge weapon in this passing offense, which will keep him in the relevant spot. High end RB2, low end RB1.
At number 10, this is where I got Alvin Kamara due to the fact that we don't know if he's going to be suspended. If Alvin Kamara is not suspended, he's a top 4 or 5 guy. It's going to just depend on how long the suspension is, how long he's out of practice for, how much they want to ease him in with Ingram. If he's not suspended, he's going to be your best running back possibly on the team, if not in the league, in terms of fantasy numbers. But I like Alvin Kamara. I think you should still draft him if he is there after the first 9-10 guys get drafted. I think that he's going to have a monster second half of the season because I don't see him getting suspended for a full season. he probably deserves it, but that's just not the case in the NFL. You get a year for gambling on your team to win, but you do not get a year for beating up a wife. So if you don't get a year for beating up your wife, what are you going to get for beating up another dude? That's just my thought. But Alvin Kamara is going to be the main guy in this offense as soon as he steps on the field.
Yeah, you got that right. So at number 10 is going to be a very controversial pick. Now, coming into training camp, a lot of people have given this guy flack because he gained a super senior 25. And that man is Leonard Fournette. And I think this is again, very controversial pick, but I think he'll be pounding it into the end zone once or twice with that added weight. And here's something just from observation, not even watching like his practices avidly. He looks more like a tank than like how Eddie Lacy packed on the pounds. He kind of looked like crap. He actually looks built like a tank. And I think that he's going to be very much the power runner that he was back in his Jacksonville days. And he's going to come back to being a 3-down back and an obvious workhorse in this offense. So that's why I have him at such a high ranking, putting him at 10.
I wanted to put Leonard Fournette in. However, I kind of see that offense switch into be more like Patriots, where it's going to be a different guy every week. Because they have Giovanni Bernard. I know they lost Ronald Jones. I believe they have another running back over there that was young, rookie. I can't remember who it is. Vaughn, I believe. Keyshawn Vaughn. So I just think there's going to be too many options there. And that's just the only reason I stuck out. Like he stuck out in my top 10. At number 9, I have Aaron Jones here. Because of A.J. Dillon, he should be higher up. But with the presence of A.J. Dillon, there's going to be a lot of games where they don't need Aaron Jones to even step on the field. He will step on the field, but as soon as they start to win games, he's probably going to get taken out to avoid injury, to avoid any cost of them hurting their Super Bowl chances. I think Aaron Jones is going to catch a lot of passes. I do think that he's going to be the second highest rush total in terms of actual carries. I think A.J. Dillon's going to beat him out there, but I think that they're both going to be primed for 600 to 800 yards rushing. He's probably going to have another 600 to 800 in the receiving game. And when you put up numbers like that, you're probably going to be a top 10 running back.
I'm going to have for number 9, Nicholas Chubbington the first. And I know a lot of people have him kind of like lower on the rankings. However, I think he's going to still be the power back that he is. He is going to make an impact on this Cleveland Browns offense. And he's going to have to kind of carry the load of a rushing attack offense with Jacoby Brissett. And they could possibly, if they want to, kind of implement a triple option to kind of make things interesting. And I think Nicholas Chubbington the first, Kareem Hunt, and Jacoby Brissett can really pack some heat there. Now, more research to be done on kind of like how they're kind of figuring their offense out in those terms. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
I think we'll find a lot of those answers this training camp and preseason. I think that we'll actually see a lot of things that they're going to do. And I think Stefanski is on the hot seat, believe it or not. So I like that pick there. And then at number 8, I have Joe Mixon. Now, Joe Mixon is a great running back when healthy. I think that there needs to be concern there. Last year, he was mostly healthy, which is another reason that Cincinnati was able to do what they did and get to the Super Bowl. However, he's had issues in the past. He's had issues with suspensions in the past. I don't think that's going to be a case anymore. I think he's grown up a little bit. But with the weapons that they have there, he's not going to be able to touch the ball as much as he'd probably like. He's probably going to score a lot of touchdowns, though. So I like Joe Mixon here at number 8.
All right. For number 8, I actually have a really big surprise here. And this is strictly because of a long injury history. I have Christian McCaffrey at number 8. And a lot of people I'm going to obviously disagree with that. But I mean, if he stays healthy, he's an instant top 3. But I do not trust him staying healthy in this offense with a lot of uncertainties at basically every position. Don't haven't heard much about his O line, honestly, being anything stellar. And he still the player he is. He will make an impact when he plays, and he'll be a top rated running back week by week. And I emphasize week by week. So I guess we'll see what happens there. But for right now, I'm staying away. I have him at 8.
At number 7, I have a guy that's going to average 25 to 30 carries, maybe more per game, and that is Harris out of Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh is going to have some struggles this season. I know as a Bears fan how frustrating it's going to be to see Mitch Trubisky behind center. I wish all the luck in the world to Mitch Trubisky. However, he's going to have to hand that ball off so often. And I think teams are going to load the box against him. I still don't think that's going to be much of an issue. I have a feeling he's going to be right around like 1,500 yards this season. He's probably going to average 80, 90 yards a game. He's probably going to score a lot of this team's touchdowns. I think Pittsburgh's in for a rude awakening this season because I don't think Kenny Pickett's as good as they hope that he's going to be. Mitch is probably your guy. He's going to have to play really well for them.
At number 7, I have DeAndre Swift for the Detroit Lions. Now he's going to be a phenomenal pass catcher in that offense and a very, very much a valued member for Jared Goff. I know they have some added receivers. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got tight end Hawkinson. They got Chark. And that they got the rookie Williams. But I think this is going to be, again, a passing offense where DeAndre Swift is going to be the number 1 target. And they're also going to throw in some runs and a healthy carry amount of maybe like 15 to 20 carries, which is a healthy load. And you don't have to worry much about him getting injured, especially in front of a really solid top 5 offensive line in the NFL.
Another guy, so for my number 6, another guy they're going to pack the box against, Derrick Henry for me this season. I know they got Robert Woods, but they lost A.J. Brown. They don't have Julio. Tannehill is not that good. There's a reason he wasn't on either of our top 15s. And I just think he's going to have a down year. And it's not going to be his fault because I don't think this team really helped him too much. He still has a good offensive line, which is why I don't think it's going to affect him as much as it should. He doesn't really catch the ball that well. So I just think that the lack of receiving power just doesn't put him in my top 5 this season. And he's going to, again, have 1,600 yards this season rushing. But unless he improved his receiving ability, I don't see him touching top 5 this season.
All right. Number 6, I have Dalvin Cook here. And a lot of people are going to say, he's obvious top 5 guy. What are you doing? But honestly, injury history sets him back just a little bit. And the uncertainty with Kirk Cousins in some games could be a blessing or it could be a curse because people are going to predict the run and that might be catastrophe on his part. And that's the big question that comes into play is Kirk Cousins' performance in this offense.
Yeah, that's going to be a big issue for him. At number 5, I have a guy that's going to catch a lot of passes, but I think this team's going to be pass heavy. It's going to be Austin Eckler. I like Austin Eckler as a player. I think that he is going to be a top 5 guy. I think he's going to have a lot of receptions this season, but I just have a feeling, like I said yesterday, that Herbert's going to have a down season due to the fact that he is so heavily relied on 3rd and 4th down. I think that they're going to try to pass the ball a lot more early on in the drive and early downs. And I just think he's going to have to require really big receiving numbers to be in the top 5, but I think he's going to get there. And I have a feeling he'll be right around 1,000 yards over 17 games. And so that's why he is my number 5 running back.
Number 5, I have Joe Mixon because Joe Burrow can really, like I said earlier in the last podcast, open up a playbook to get everyone involved. I mean, he made Tyler Boyd look like a stud last year, and which is why he is actually a valued member in the deep rounds, as a deep round sleeper. So kind of trailing off a little bit there, but I have Joe Mixon as my number 5 running back because he's one that could potentially be a 3-down back or three down back in both run and pass plays, as well as a goal line pass or a goal line presence that he will make to make things interesting as your RB1 in fantasy.
Number 4, I have DeAndre Swift. For every reason you said earlier, he's going to be the team's top receiving guy. He's also probably going to have 1,200 yards rushing this season. So I think that he's going to have monster numbers, especially in fantasy. This team is probably going to win 7-8 games this season for Detroit. And I think that he's going to have to be a big part of it. So I think that he's going to score quite a bit. I think he's going to have a lot of receptions, a lot of yards. And I just think he's going to be a stud this season and possibly win a lot of people a lot of leagues, especially if he's drafted later on.
I have Najee Harris at the number 4 spot, obviously, because the uncertainty of, if you see the report of Mitch Trubisky kind of having a very ugly performance in training camp, if you saw that, we went 0 for 16, and there's been a lot of chemistry and questioning involving the quarterback play, like overall for the Steelers. They don't know if Kenny Pickett's necessarily going to be ready, but at the same time, he could be like a talent that's thrown in kind of like later in the season if Mitchell Trubisky underperforms. With that uncertainty being said, like you said earlier, Najee Harris is going to have a whopping load of carries that, like you said, 25 for 30, that he's going to have some 100+ yard games. He's going to have 10+ touchdowns during the season, which is going to be obviously pretty huge.
At number 3, this is where I have Christian McCaffrey. I do think that he needs to stay healthy this season. They paid him a lot of money, and I think that for him to not be considered maybe a bust on this contract, he's going to need a big season, especially when his 2 quarterbacks that are battling are Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I think it's going to be Baker Mayfield all day, but we see how much they rely on the running backs. And so if Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, he's probably a top 3 running back. The health is a major question for me.
Yeah, the best pass catcher in the NFL, and big reason why I have him at number 3, and you could see him probably also taking more carries in the run game, is Austin Eckler. He's a talent to be reckoned with, and I had him in fantasy years previous, and he is absolutely dominated.
Yeah, I like that answer. Number 2, I have Dalvin Cook. I think that this team is really complete. I think they're going to give the Packers a run for the money in the division. It's going to be Kirk Cousins. The whole team comes down to Kirk Cousins. It's not going to be Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's going to have a phenomenal season in my mind, and he's going to score a lot of points in fantasy football this year as long as he stays healthy. And I have a feeling he'll be fine. So give me Dalvin Cook at number 2.
Yeah, I like the pick. Give me King Henry at number 2. Some people would either keep him out of their top 5 or kind of be like lower than he was years previous. But I think he's going to be a workhorse. Playing devil's advocate with that a little bit, though, you kind of got to worry about his health taking on such a big role in this offense, like overwhelmingly just the crazy load. But in at least the few games, you can expect him putting up top numbers like he usually does.
And number 1, 2 days in a row that we have the number 1 guy is the same player. I have Jonathan Taylor from the Colts. He's improved his receiving ability. He's going to be featured back in that room. He's fast as hell. He can get around a corner. He can beat out anyone there. his his freshman season at Wisconsin, I believe he had 2,000 yards rushing. He's now been 3 years into the league, and we saw last year what he could do in a competent offense with Carson Wentz. He now has Matt Ryan. I think that it's only going to get better for him. I think he's going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. I think that he's going to be unbelievable, and he should be the number one player off the board in every single league this season.
Yeah, like just like you said, he's well versed with carries. He's well versed in the passing game, etc. And the addition of Matt Ryan is really going to help stimulate that offense, if you will. And that offensive line is probably the best in the NFL. And that defense is arguably top 10. And just the whole team around him is really going to help with his dynamic of play. And he has all the odds that are for him to be the top running back in the NFL.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's our running back rankings for 2022. We'll see you guys again tomorrow for the wide receiver rankings in fantasy football 2022 NFL season. See you tomorrow, guys.